The first category of assistive technology that we're going to look at is aids of daily living. Aids of daily living include activities like eating, dressing, and anything you do to care for yourself on a daily basis. First, let's look at this nosy cup. It has a small cutout in the front, which allows a child to take a drink without needing to bend their neck. Next, we have a bottle holder. A bottle is inserted in the middle, and there are lots of places where a child can grip, allowing them to feed themselves more independently. This bowl is adapted with an extra lip to make it easier for kids to scoop their own food. It also has a suction cup on the bottom so it stays in place on the table. This silverware is adapted to make it easier to use. This fork has a large grip, and this spoon moves to allow for easier scooping. This belt is another example of AT for daily living. It looks just like a normal belt, but it has Velcro to close so kids can dress themselves more independently. And finally, we have an example of a hairbrush that's been adapted using pipe insulation and some tape to give it a much bigger grip so it's easier to hold. Now let's look at assistive technology for vision and hearing. This device is called a bookworm. It clips onto any book and allows you to record audio for each page, making it accessible for children with visual impairments. This is another example of a way to make things more accessible for children with visual impairments. This is a sample page from a communication book with high contrast pictures. You can also use high contrast pictures in visual schedules, visual rules, or any other place you would use visuals. In addition to high contrast pictures, there are also magnification sheets, which you can use to make pictures appear larger. This device is an electronic magnification device. A child can take a picture of anything in their environment, and it automatically magnifies it for them and can make it high contrast. Finally, we have an example of a portable sound amplification device. This device clips onto your shirt and then using earbuds amplifies the sound that it's facing towards. Now let's look at assistive technology for computer access. One way to make computers more accessible for people with disabilities is through the use of adapted keyboards. There are many types of adapted keyboards, and this is just one example, which has different colored keys to make them easier to find. Another way to increase computer access is through the use of adapted mice. This is a USB joystick which plugs into a computer, and this is an adapted mouse with a large trackball and 2 buttons to select, which are much farther apart than your regular mouse. Now let's look at a switch interface. A switch interface is a way to allow someone to access a computer through the use of switches. The switch interface plugs into the computer, and then the switches plug into the switch interface. It allows you to do things like move a mouse, select, or space. Finally, let's look at tablet settings to make computer tablets easier to access. There are many types of accessibility settings with computer tablets. They include things like voiceover, zoom, inverted colors, grayscale, and speech to text. Now let's look at assistive technology for pre-academic skills. When we talk about pre-academic skills for young children, we may be talking about counting, sorting, looking at books, or drawing. These trays give children visual and tactile boundaries to help them with tasks like sorting, counting, or making patterns. We also have some examples of adapted writing materials. This could include things like stamps for children who cannot yet write or draw, different shaped crayons that are easier for little hands to hold, and pencil or marker grips. This is a large grip that makes a pen easier to hold, and this is a weighted grip, which makes a pen easier to hold, but also gives the child some feedback. And finally, let's look at a few adapted books. This book has fabric in different textures that match the animals for each page. So children with visual impairments or children who are sensory seekers can really engage with the book. This book has been adapted with stickers to give a visual boundary, pipe cleaners to make different parts of the book stand out, and it has Braille labels throughout. Now let's look at some options for communication. When we talk about assistive technology for communication, there is a wide range of options, ranging from very low tech to very high tech. One end of this spectrum is not better than the other. It all depends on the child you're working with. The first option we're going to look at is a picture communication book. This book uses a simple photo album and gives a child a variety of pictures that they can use to request or comment. Moving up the spectrum, we have a single message device. This device can be programmed with audio output, so when a child presses the button, it speaks for them. The next thing we're going to look at is a static display device. This device has 20 pictures in it that are each programmed with audio. So when a child selects a picture, it speaks for them. Now let's look at some higher end devices. This is a dedicated communication device with a wide range of vocabulary that gives a child a lot to say. This is a similar device, but it runs on a tablet, like an iPad or an Android tablet. This device also has eye gaze technology, so a child can look at a picture and select it with their eyes. When we talk about assistive technology for recreation, we talk about activities like sports, arts and crafts, music, and play. In the area of sports, we have this adapted toy, which has been fitted with a switch so that a child can throw a ball simply by pressing the switch. In the area of arts and crafts, we have lots of tools to help young children create and explore. We have things like adapted crayons, which are easier to hold, as well as adapted paintbrushes. We have stamps to let young children make their mark. And we have lots of different kinds of adapted scissors, which allow a child to cut even with limited fine motor skills. In the area of music, we have some fun options. This device is called the Skoog, and when plugged into a computer, it can play a number of different instruments simply by pressing the different sides. We also have this adapted drum, which can be fitted with switches so that a user can play the drums. And finally, we have some adapted toys. This crab, when he's turned on, buzzes and moves with just sound, so a child can use their voice to activate the crab. And we have switch toys like this goose. When you press the switch, she reads you a story. Let's look at some assistive technology for sensory needs. One common use of assistive technology in the area of sensory is weighted items. This weighted snake can sit around a child's shoulders. There are also larger weighted options like weighted blankets or weighted shawls. There are many different kinds of fidgets available to keep little hands busy and help give kids something to do while they're sitting still. These fidgets have a bumpy texture and are very firm. These fidgets are very squishy and give a completely different kind of experience. And this fidget is quite small and discreet if you're doing an activity with lots of kids. We also have noise-canceling headphones, which a child can wear in situations that are loud, like a school assembly or at the mall. We also have some different seating options. This cushion goes on any chair and lets a child wiggle a little bit while they're sitting. It also has a bumpy side and a smooth side, depending on what works best for the child. And finally, we have this fun chair, which is a great size for a little kid. And when they sit on it, it can rock, so they get some movement while they're staying in their chair. Now let's look at some assistive technology to help young children control their environments. We all know that the buttons on a TV remote can be small and difficult to press. This is a voice-controlled TV remote that allows a child, or an adult, to use voice commands to control their TV. This Bluetooth switch pairs with a tablet device, allowing someone with limited fine motor skills to use a tablet. This device is called the PowerLink, and it allows you to make many things in your home switch accessible. You can plug something in here, and then you attach a switch and use the switch to activate what you've plugged in. You could use it to power a radio or a blender or a mixer if you wanted a child to help you with a cooking project. Finally, we have a device from Amazon that allows you, again, to use your voice to control different things in your home. You can use it to turn on the lights or to do something like play music. Alexa, play Radio Disney.
Radio Disney on TuneIn.
For more information about the items that were presented in this video, please see the product information in the description below. The contents of this video were developed under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education. Brought to you by Pacer Center.